What's up, Magic fans, and welcome to episode 11 of Penny for Your Thoughts. My name's Mikey. I'm joined by Paul, the man with the moves, Mr. Floss. Evening, mate.
How you doing, Mikey? You well?
Yes, mate. Thank you. All good here.
I'm not responding to you about it. No way.
It's gonna go up one day. It's
That's
gonna
not
go.
fair. I would love to claim that there was beer involved. Unfortunately, I can't.
Not on that occasion. And then we're joined by our friend from Wales, the Welsh Josh Cohen. Evening, Geraint.
Thank you very much. Evening. How are you?
All good, mate. All good. And we are absolutely delighted to be joined by our friend, Mr. Steele, David Steele from the Orlando Magic and Fox Sports. How are you, David?
I'm doing great. You know, we got one Clark and one Bacon. So we got Gary Clark Jr. and Paul Bacon, Dwayne Bacon now on the team. So now all we need is a Jones, which you would think we could find a Jones somewhere in the world that could play NBA basketball in Orlando, and then you guys would be all set.
You got it.
The question is, should I get a Bacon shirt?
Oh yeah, no question. You have to get one, Paul. That should be your first order of business.
The worry I've got is that I'm known to wear Biffa and 68, so people recognise it from that number. Would I be diluting my identity?
Not at all. Not at all. As long as you got Bacon on the back of that jersey, I think you're good to go. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you for joining us. We've been trying to recruit a Jones for 2 or 3 weeks, haven't we?
We have.
With no luck so far.
Derek Jones Jr. He's already spoken for, right?
That's right.
That was our shot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've got loads to go through this evening. We're going to talk about some Magic news. We're going to break down the first half of the regular season roster. A quick shout out to everybody who's been downloading and listening to our episodes. We've done 10 through so far, and we've had over 200 people downloading an episode at a time, which is mind-boggling, really. So considering we've only done a few shows up to now. But hopefully we can carry on having some great guests on, like David and Dante, who we had on a few weeks ago. So yeah, thank you for all your subscribers and everything else. So cool. So first thing tonight then, the Magic announced today that Terence Ross has been experiencing discomfort in his big toe, and an MRI revealed he's got a non-displaced hairline fracture. T. Ross will continue to take part in non-contact practice activities, but he will continue to be evaluated. His return to full contact work will depend on how he responds to treatment. Geraint, what was your first reaction to the news?
It's a bit of a blow. You want all the guys in training camp, everyone getting to know each other, know the system that Coach Clifford puts into place. But it doesn't sound like it's going to be too long. So fingers crossed for a quick, healthy return. I know he's doing non-contact drills at the moment, from what the team said. So hopefully he can stay in shape.
Paul?
Yeah, my reaction was something similar. Not published. Shouldn't be on this broadcast, but there we go. So we'll say it was no. But yeah, it's good to read that he has said he can play through it, and that he can he's still shooting and doing his cardio work whilst the toe heals. It's not what we wanted to start the season, because with the other issues we've got around injury, which I know we're going to cover shortly again, he had such a big role to play. But fingers crossed it's not going to be a long-term issue for us.
David, how do you see the rotation possibly changing during pre-season? I'm not sure how long we think he might be out.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to be concerned about it at this point, Mikey. I mean, we're still several days away from the first preseason game, and we've got 4 of those. The first regular season game is December the 23rd. Today is the 7th. So we're talking about 16 days out. It sounds like somebody stepped on his toe, and they discovered he had some discomfort. They did a X-ray and found a hairline fracture, very small. I think it's not going to be a significant injury. I wouldn't get too concerned about it. Now if a week from now, if he's still not back out there and going pretty much at full speed, then there may be some reason for concern. But I don't think you need to start looking at the second unit at this point. I saw what Terrence said. He's very confident that he's good to go. Now, if this were in the foot, the foot or the ankle, those are the hairline fractures that you're concerned about. That's when guys go into a boot and you don't see them for several weeks. But in the big toe, I think that this probably is going to be a pretty minor situation. Let's hope for it. Fingers crossed. We don't need to start with injuries already. We had our share in the bubble, didn't we?
We had plenty last year, didn't we? So the other news last week, Steve Clifford revealed that Mo Bamba and Al Farouk Aminu will not be ready to participate at the start of training camp, which started on Friday. Bamba's still working on his conditioning. There was an article by Josh Robbins last week who said Mo said to him that he hadn't felt any symptoms from COVID since June, and his words were he was working his ass off to get back in peak shape, which sounds pretty optimistic. Paul, what are you thinking? What do you think about Bamba heading into this season?
I think that the article you just mentioned by Josh was a really interesting article on The Athletic. First thing that struck me was that Mo actually came out and said that he isn't a long COVID sufferer, which was something that we discussed previously, which is excellent to hear. I know he said that he hasn't had any symptoms since June, slightly contradicted by what Jeff Weltman said recently in an interview in November, that Mo was still dealing with the back end of his COVID issues. So, okay, not symptoms, but clearly still issues arising from that illness that he'd had. It's good to see he spent the last 2 months doing 3.5 mile runs on a daily basis and court work in Orlando. He'd also been down to California, Red, to have a month working with a personal trainer. So he's clearly putting the work in, which is excellent to hear. Reddy's dropped some weight as well, down to about 240. And feeling better for that. I know he bulked up massively last season. What did we see out of him last season? Disruption, obviously, his minutes dropped. However, we did see his 3-point shot improve, shooting at almost 35%, and he continued to block at an elite level. He got 86 blocks on the season, which ranked him 17th across the total NBA, which was 1.4 per game, which is joint 12th in the NBA. So he's clearly got the ability on the defensive end that we already know. Interestingly, Mo said that he wants to have a clear goal from the Magic set for his growth, and nice to see that his personal goal is that he wants to carve himself a bigger role within the team. For the season, we know that entering at this moment with the health issues, he's well behind Vooch. We all know that Vooch was taking a lot of his minutes last season because we saw Vooch's minutes grow. And I think you can argue that he's actually behind Kem as well, because Kem, every time he's called upon, has come in and done a stand-up job for the team. So the good thing that we've got at the centre is some depth, and it allows the Magic to be cautious on his return. We don't need to rush him back, which is nice. So I think that we can expect to see him come back not too quickly. When he comes back, we know he can play D, and we know he can stretch the court on the offence. I expect that we see his 4-year option taken up, when they signed him, he was considered to be a long-term project. So we just want to see some better offensive play from him, and being a little bit more willing to bully on the court, I feel. So that's my take, mate.
Cool. Meanwhile, Al Farouk Aminu underwent an arthroscopic procedure. I haven't even had a beer. Last week to help swelling in his right knee. Farouk had surgery in January to repair a torn meniscus after playing in just 18 games last season. We want to see Aminu back. What's your thoughts, mate?
Absolutely. He signed a 3-year contract, 29 million off season before last to fill a void. Something we lacked against the Raptors in that playoff series. He's got career numbers of 10 and 7. We didn't quite see it last year in the 18 games, as you mentioned. He averaged 4.3 points, 4.8 rebounds, 1 assist on 29% shooting. So we know he's capable of, bringing a lot more to the team. But what you get with Al-Farouq Aminu, he's played on 4 ball clubs before this, 10-year vet, and the Magic probably look to him to mould, your Chuma Okikis, Aaron Gordons, all the younger players. It's unfortunate because Jonathan Isaac, as we know, is missing for the season, and there's clearly, a lot of minutes there available at the forward spot. But he's a mentor, veteran, good character, locker room guy, and he sets a good culture. So be greatly missed, and we lose out on his defense. Just looking at some stats, and he averaged, according to the Basketball Reference website, he posted at least a 2.0 defensive win share and a positive defensive box plus minus in every season he's participated in the NBA. So that's some stats to have to your name. So it's unfortunate. We'd like to see him back to bring along the rookies, the younger players, and we look forward to having him back on the court.
David, how important do you think it is for the Magic to get Mo and Farouk back? What do you expect to see from them when they're back fully healthy?
Well, Paul you guys have done a great breakdown of those two players and what they possibly potentially mean to the team. But you're right, Paul, with Vucevic clearly becoming one of the elite centers in the Eastern Conference, if not the NBA, and Kem Birch, a solid backup. There's not an urgency to bring Mo back. That is definitely a long-term situation. He's locked into the organization. The organization is committed to him. He's had, unfortunately, several injuries that have slowed his progress, not just this one with the COVID. The COVID is, I heard Jeff Weltman again today say that it's the tail end of the COVID is what he's dealing with still, which, that could mean conditioning. It could mean that, I don't think he still has symptoms of any kind, but is just getting back to NBA playing shape. So I think that we'll see him probably sooner than Aminu. That one is a little more concerning because he had major surgery a year ago, and they had to go back in and clean that up. And what's the saying about the only minor surgery is when it's somebody else. There's no such thing as a minor surgery if it's you. So I am a little bit more concerned. I don't know how long that's going to take to get Farouk back on the court, and without Isaac, that's a little bit of a blow. But I tell you, I was encouraged by Gary Clark Jr. in the bubble. I think we may have just I'm not talking about an all-star or but just a solid NBA rotation player who understands his role, is a great guy in the locker room. His teammates like playing with him. He can make a 3-point shot. He was the defensive player of the year in a very high-level college conference in his college career. He's a very good rebounder, defensive, offensive, a little bit of shot blocking. So I think we're okay at that position without too many more injuries. We can't suffer another Aaron Gordon type. Okiki needs to stay healthy. Aaron Gordon needs to stay healthy. Dwayne Bacon is a guy that's going to be able to play some 2 and 3, I think. So I think I like the team's depth at this point right now, even without Bamba and Farouk. I think this team has more depth going into the season than we've had in many, many years.
Well, Geraint can give Al a little phone call, can't you? Because you've just recovered from a meniscus surgery, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Had some knee surgery, 5 weeks ago now. So I've been cleared for running on next Thursday coming. So, yeah.
And we can say it didn't affect your shot, G.
Is that good or bad?
He never had one. On Friday, the NBA released the first half of the 2021 regular season schedule. The second half of the schedule is going to be released towards the back end of the first half of the season. The schedule's up on orlandomagicuk.com. All the dates and all the tip-offs are with UK tip-off times for everybody over here. Some of the key dates, Tuesday, the 22nd of December, we've got opening night. We've got the Warriors and the Nets and the Clippers and that other team in LA. The 5th to the 10th of March, we got the All-Star break. Then the second half of the regular season will run from the 11th of March to the 16th of May. We got the NBA trade deadline on the 25th of March. 18th to the 21st of May, we'll have the play-in tournament for those teams that finish 7 to 10. And then the playoffs will start on the 22nd of May. A couple of notable things. The Magic will tip off at home against the Miami Heat on the 23rd of December. 11 of the first 17 games are against teams that have made the playoffs last season. And 11 of 17 are on the road to start, including 6 back-to-backs. Geraint's had a look at December and January. So what's your takeaways from the schedule, G?
Well, as the great Larry Bird once said, 41 at home, 41 on the road. It is what it is, albeit it'll be 36 this year. So, what's key for the Magic, I think, is for us to get off to a good start. The last 2 seasons, we started 3-7, 2-6. It's put us on the back foot a little bit. So I've had a little look. Of course, you've got it's almost every year, isn't it? We open up against the Heat. So that'd be an interesting matchup. Followed up by a back-to-back in Washington, where we get to see Russell Westbrook and I nearly said John Wall then, Bradley Beal, with a couple of other new teammates. So that'll be interesting to see, if they've got it going together. So there's an opportunity there to perhaps pick up a W or two. But some winnable games coming up in December and January. Other than the Wizards, we've got OKC a couple of times. Of course, what with their roster moves and literally trading everything for a pick. We play the Cavaliers twice on a back-to-back. The Rockets on the road, where we've had great success in Houston, and Mr. Harden hasn't been turning up to work, I hear. So you don't know, do you? We might be playing half a team. So you fancy us to pick up a few wins. There is a bit of a gauntlet in there, starting on the 9th of January, where we go to Dallas, we host Milwaukee, we're at Boston twice, and then we move on to Brooklyn. So let's just get through that best we can, I think. Then we play the Knicks, the Wolves, the Pacers. So there's chances to pick up a couple there. The Hornets on a back-to-back, followed by the Kings, Clippers, and Raptors. So, I've gone through it, and I can see us potentially floating around the 500, probably more likely 10 and 12 for that period. So, there's an opportunity there to get off to a better start than what we have, and just kick on then for the season.
Paul's had a look at February and March.
Yep, I have. Mate, I'm actually with Geraint. I think that by the end of the end of the first 10 games, we certainly have an opportunity to be at the 500 mark, which would be superb. But as we come into February, by that point of the season, any benefits that we've got from the continuity that we're going into the season with have gone, as by that point we will be 22 games in. So at that point, we have to hope that we are fit, that we've got some of the young players contributing well, and that we haven't got any new injuries, and perhaps a couple of the other guys have come back. We open February with a 3-game homestand, including 2 games against the Bulls, which is on a back-to-back. I know that we're going to come to looking at Chicago later, but that's going to be an interesting battle because they are important fixtures, as they seem to be one of the teams that we are going to be fighting with for a position in the playoffs or in the play-in tournament. After that, the schedule takes a little bit of a turn because we have a tough 4-game road trip out west, where we face Portland, Golden State, Sacramento, and Phoenix, and the Warriors and Kings games are on a back-to-back, so that's going to be a couple of tough nights. We then return to finish off February with 7 of 8 games that we play at home. That takes us into the All-Star break. We've got games against the Knicks and 2 games against Detroit. They're very winnable. The final game that we play before we go into the All-Star break will be a very interesting one because it's our first look at Atlanta. And again, we're seen as potentially battling them. So that could be a big game. There's, as I say, we have, for me, there's 3 distinct points as we get to that part of the season. We have to have hit the ground running, so as we're going in with some confidence. We have to have seen some progress from the likes of Gary Clark. Hopefully, Dwayne Bacon will have found some of the spark that he was showing in his rookie season under Steve Clifford. And we want to see Cole Anthony and Chuma Okeke having some contributions that we're all excited about their prospects. So if the team can stay healthy, we can be, I think, by the end of that schedule, going into the All-Star break in a good position.
How difficult do you think this season's going to be, David, in terms of, obviously last year was was really challenging with the bubble. And obviously this year's going to look a little bit different to a normal season as well. How do you see it playing out, and what sort of challenges do you think the Magic are going to have to overcome?
I think all the teams are going to be battling the uncertainty of COVID, the uncertainty of injuries with a lot of back-to-backs. You guys have already talked about, the schedule. It comes fast, it comes hard. Teams that can stay healthy, that have good luck with that, I think are obviously going to have a huge advantage. We didn't have that last year. I actually thought that when we were healthy toward the end of the regular season, we were one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. I felt like that the last 2 years. So I'm bullish on this season with the understanding that you're going to have to stay healthy. I mean, I can see a lot of teams all around the NBA. If luck goes poorly for them, I think there's better balance in the East, and especially in the Eastern Conference. So even, you're looking at teams that you're saying they're a lock for the playoffs. I believe, guys, there are going to be some surprises. I felt that way in the bubble because we've never done this before. This is all new. I mean, you can't just say this is what has happened in the past and now this is what's going to happen now, because we've never done this before. We've never played in empty arenas. We've never had a pandemic worldwide that is in everybody's heads. What about the character of your team? What about the mental toughness of your players? What about the maturity of your players? Are they going to stay safe off the court? Are they going to do the right things? I think we have a group of guys that are going to do the right things. And I think we have a group of guys that are really going to be working hard together. They like their coach. They play hard for their coach. So I'm actually, I don't want to get too carried away, but I think we're going to have if we can keep everybody out there, and keep this thing going. I think we're a better than 500 team. And, I don't care what the other teams have. I think Steve Clifford and this staff and these guys will find a way to get their victories, and they're going to fight. And I think it's going to be a very good season. I see improvement from Markelle Fultz. I think the young guys are going to get better. I've been impressed with Cole Anthony and Okeke. I have been able to see a couple of practices in the first 4 days. And I think the fans are going to see pretty quickly. These guys are maybe a little more mature than you would expect the ordinary rookie coming into the league. So they're going to make their mistakes because that's what rookies do. But they're going to help this basketball team. So I do like the depth. I think if we can stay healthy, we're going to be a factor. Hopefully we can avoid that 7, 8, 9, 10 play-in. But I actually think, I mean, I see a lot, most fans seem to think that, we'll do well if we can just get in that play-in. I think the team can strive for even better than that. I really do.
I think we understand there's a huge booklet the NBA have sent out of all the different protocols and stuff that that teams have got to comply with during the season. How's it going to change for you this season, David, in terms of traveling and getting to the games and being in the arena? Do you not know?
No, I know. Yeah,
You
we
know.
know. We're not traveling. We are not
Okay.
traveling. Yeah, at least for the first part of the season, we're starting out doing all the games from the Amway Center. So Jeff and I will be in our broadcast, and we're moving off the floor. The new protocol calls for broadcasters to be 30 feet off the court. So we won't be on the court. We'll be up 20 or 30 rows, and we'll be broadcasting from up top a little bit on at the Amway Center for the home games, and then for the road games we'll go to the same spot and have our monitors that we had in the bubble and broadcast remotely. So it's not optimal. It's not the way, it's hard to do your best broadcast, but I think we got pretty comfortable with it, and Jeff and I feel like we can do a good job. So we're looking forward to it, but we much prefer to be out and get the feel of the crowd and talk to the other broadcasters, opposing coaches and players, and just there's nothing like being there in person. As you guys know, you view most of the games remotely, and when you go to the Amway Center and experience the NBA live, you get a feel for the energy and the excitement. Well, it's no different for a broadcaster. That filters through, I think, on our broadcasts. But that's the way it is right now. That's what we have to deal with. So we're glad to be going back to work, however that may look.
Absolutely.
Mikey, at this point,
yes.
Can I just ask the question I was going to ask later on?
Go for it.
Because it ties in nicely with what David's just been saying. We were all really, really impressed at the broadcasting, the commentary that you and Jeff and Dante came up with during the bubble. What challenges were there being remote from the arena, watching, commentating via the live TV feed?
A lot of broadcasters are doing it right now. I mean, I'm watching, I guess that's probably true all over the world. So, there's no reason to really even complain about it, but it is different. I'll tell you the big difference is you can't look around and see, just get a panoramic view of, if I want to look down to the opposing team's bench and see what, the body language of a player or a coach or an official talking away from the ball with the player, just little things. I could think of, many other types of scenarios where, maybe when play slows down, ball, a dead ball situation, you look around, your eyes are darting everywhere, just picking up little signals about what's going on. You lose all of that. You get only what the camera gives you. Some of the calls, when calls were made, Jeff and I would look at each other like, what was that call? Non-verbally. And so what you have to do is you just have to pull back and wait until you can really figure out what's going on. Otherwise, you're just kind of babbling about, I don't know what that call was, or we try to avoid that type of commentary that really goes nowhere. In the end, Jeff and I, we figured things out, and we feel pretty comfortable doing a remote broadcast, but we really look forward to getting back out on the road with the team.
So let's have a look at the Eastern Conference. Last week, we broke down the Atlanta Hawks and Charlotte Hornets, who we've got in pre-season. But there's a few other teams that are likely to be in and around where we think we might finish. So we're going to have a look at the Wizards, Pacers, and Bulls. G, what do you think about the Wizards and the moves they've made, especially Mr. Westbrook?
Yeah, so I mean, the Wizards finished 25-47, good for 9th in the East, good 7.5 back of us. So they've made quite a few moves. The most important one, I suppose, is trading John Wall and the first-round pick for Russell Westbrook, which has sent shockwaves through the league, really. It's not often an MVP gets traded consecutive seasons, especially one like Westbrook, albeit he's, 30-something. He's still a very, very good player, great competitor. So you couple Westbrook with Beal. They've re-signed Davis Bertans for $80 million for over 5 years. Come to an agreement with Robin Lopez, 1 year, $7.3 million. They drafted 9th a guy called, bear with me, Denny Avdia. So I think I did that all right.
Oh, do you want to have a go?
Look it up.
But we all know there's a reason you gave me Indiana. I should explain to David, I have a little bit of a problem on pronouncing Victor's surname. I seem to add an extra O. So instead of being Oladipo, it's always Oladipo. So I know
okay.
full well
That's why you
why
got
Mike
Indiana.
gave me Indiana, because I'm going to have to be saying his name repeatedly. So from here on in, he's going to be referred to as Vic.
I got it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so they've got, quite a few decent players. Thomas Bryant, Isaac Bonga, Rui Hachimura, Troy Brown Jr., all very good young players. And then you couple up the roster with Ish Smith, Raul Neto. So a lot's going to depend on how Beal and Westbrook play together. But Scott Brooks needs to get, everyone playing the way he wants them to start playing. So it's probably favourable for us to be playing them early on, just before they find their feet, hopefully. So they've got a very talented roster, but for me, they'll go as Westbrook goes. Beal will get his points, but Westbrook is the driving force in that roster. We see what he did in OKC with Oladipo, where he molded him to be an all-star player. So he could push some of the other Wizards along, to be very good players. So they'll be in and around where we are, I believe.
I think for Washington, if Beal and Westbrook can stay healthy, then I think they're going to be a little bit of a problem. But depth seems to be their biggest issue, doesn't it? If a few people go down hurt, they're not going to have a lot of really good rotation players that can really help the two of them out. I'm interested to see what David thinks about the Wizards. Do you think they're going to be a challenge for the Magic to finish in and around those playoff spots in the play-in tournament?
Yeah, I think that they are definitely a possible team to. I'm sorry, I lost you guys. You still there?
You're still here.
Okay.
David.
I think they're like you said, they're a team that could be right in there around the 500 mark. But we'll see how they are defensively too. I mean, I'm just not sure how the Westbrook Beal. They're going to score a lot of points. They're eating up the basketball. They're both they're going to dominate. Westbrook's going to dominate the ball, and Beal's going to get his points. So they're two very talented offensive players. They have a great shooter in Bertans on the perimeter. So they're going to score. They weren't a very good defensive team last year. I don't see that changing a lot this year. So, I feel pretty good about the chances that we can stay a notch ahead of the Washington team. But they are going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to be interesting. And like you said, Mikey, their depth is questionable. If they have some injuries, I think they could have some serious problems.
This coach got something to say as well.
Yeah, he's weighing in on something. I'm not sure. We got a lot of dog walkers outside the house right now. It's a little earlier here than it is out there.
So,
what do you think about Oladipo then, Paul?
Let's say it was never in doubt that you were going to give me Indiana, mate. I think they're quite interesting. Coming in from last season, came in 45-28. Fourth in the East, but swept by Miami in the first round of the playoffs. They approached the off-season with next to no cap space and little opportunity in the draft. Missed out on supposedly pursuing Gordon Hayward, which has been quite a big thing reportedly for them. Biggest change they've made is picking up Raptors former assistant coach Nate Bjorkgren. Hope I've said that right. As their new head coach. He's said to be an offensive-minded coach, which will be interesting because the Pacers already have an elite defense, 6th in the NBA last season. So if they can add some offense to that discipline that they have and the game that they have on the defense, that could be a huge bonus for them. The minute they finished last season ranking 19th offensively. Beyond the coach, they've effectively had to run it back. They only had a second-round pick in the draft and picked up a guy, Cassius Stanley from Duke, 21-year-old shooting guard who's gone on a 2-way contract. So he's going to be splitting his time between the G League and the NBA. They've re-signed Justin Holiday and Jakar Sampson in free agency. They've moved TJ Leaf, but let's be fair, they had good depth, and I expect them still to compete with a potential starting lineup of Malcolm Brogdon, Victor, TJ Warren, Sabonis, and who we're looking at? Oh, Miles Turner, with backup of Aaron Holiday, TJ McConnell, who always comes on and gives a good performance. He always works so hard. Jeremy Lamb, and then the shooting of Doug McDermott. They've got some good backup. They've got a good team. So I think that they will be competing. Their actual issue for me is when and if they reach the playoffs, not getting swept in the first round again, because that's been their issue, that they've every time they've gone into the first round, they've gone out very, very quickly recently. But yeah, I think they'll be a good team, and I think they're going to compete. Whether or not they reach fourth, because Miami and Brooklyn you would expect to have improved around them. We'll see if it drops them back down the pecking order a little bit. But I expect them to be a solid team again.
Do you think the Magic can? I don't want to say stay pace with the Pacers. That's terrible.
Really?
I shouldn't have gone like that. But there we go. You can let me know about that one. Do you think the Magic are on the Pacers level, David? Do you think the Magic can push them for? Do you think we're in that next tier up from where we were?
I think we can push up close to that tier. I think Paul is probably right. I don't think Indiana is a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference. Again, all of this is contingent on, let's say, every team stays healthy, which we know is not going to happen. So, but Indiana, I like their starting 5. They don't like the Magic. They don't have a superstar player. They have a lot of good players. And if Victor Oladipo gets back to close to an all-star level, Vic, as Paul likes to call him, if he gets back close to an all-star level, then that could push them a little bit higher in the Eastern Conference. But I think that's a big question mark. You know, that injury was apparently pretty significant. He didn't get it back last year. Maybe with a little more time to get ready, we'll see the old Vic. But I think if we can if we can keep guys out on the court. I like the chemistry of the Magic team, and I think we could push up there right around where Indiana is.
I think the other potential team that could come into that little tier is Chicago. I think the main move that they made was hiring Billy Donovan, who famously the Magic hired. It didn't turn out too bad because we had Stan Van Gundy a little bit later on. David, I'm going to go back to the Bulls in a minute. What do you remember about that situation where they hired Billy and then he said, actually, I don't want this. I'm going to go back to college basketball?
It was a strange couple of days for sure. I used to broadcast before I came to the Magic, and then in the 80s, I did Gator basketball and football. So, I had a lot of contacts there, and I found out Billy was coming. And the backstory is that he obviously second guessed his decision and pulled out about 24 hours after he did a press conference. He actually did a big press conference in the practice facility, and all the media was there. It was a big deal because Gainesville is about 90 miles from Orlando, and the Gators are a huge force in sports in the Sunshine State, and especially in Orlando. So for the University of Florida coach to leave the Gators and come to the NBA Orlando Magic, it was a big deal. And then he turned around and went back to Gainesville. Like you said, Mikey, it turned out well for him because he went on and did great things with the Gators and then Oklahoma City, and the Magic came out pretty well with Stan Van Gundy and a trip to the NBA Finals. So it all worked out fine. But he is a good coach, and I agree. I think that's the big move they made. They didn't significantly change their team, and I don't see them as a team that'll challenge for one of those even top 10 spots. Maybe 10, maybe 9, 10 if things go well for them. I'm not going to count anybody out because, again, I think it's an uncertain situation, and they do have some talent. But I think all things equal, they'll have a hard time making the playoffs again this year. But they're on a pretty good track. I think they got some good young players.
Yeah, and the other player that they drafted this year was Patrick Williams, who was a bit of surprise going at 4 by a lot of mock drafts. He's been added in. Like I said, there's 13 of the 15 players from last season are all returning for Chicago. They let Chris Dunn leave, who went to Atlanta. But it's really that core group of Zach Levine, Larry Markkinen, Otto Porter, who only played 14 games last year, had a foot injury and just couldn't stay healthy. I think, like we've already said, I think they're that tier below. So looking ahead to how we think the season might play out, for me, I think there's a clear top 6 in the East with Boston, Brooklyn, Miami, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Toronto. That next tier down, who gets into the play-in tournament? I'm going to throw us to David first. Who gets in? Who misses out? And do you think who might be your surprise?
Well, I've already kind of indicated that I think top end we could avoid the play-in. I do. I think if you finish, I believe there are going to be a number of teams that are right around 500, and 2 or 3 games over, 2 or 3 games under. So if you're finished 3 games over 500, that might be good for 6th place in the East. And I think Orlando is a team that's capable of being an over 500 team. So I'm going to say that we'll be either right there at 6, 7, 8, one of those 3 spots. Atlanta, it's hard to imagine with all of that talent. We haven't seen it together. That's the thing. We haven't seen those guys play together. So, but on paper, they look pretty darn good. That starting 5 is good. They've got some good depth. But we haven't, again, let's see it. We've got continuity. We've talked about that. We've got good players too. So I'm not sure they pass us, but I think certainly they're talented enough to be right up there. Washington with Westbrook is now certainly a factor. And Charlotte we haven't even mentioned Charlotte, but Gordon Hayward is going to make them better. But I think, I would say Washington, Atlanta, Orlando. Who am I missing? Indiana. Maybe those are the teams. Did I miss one? Washington. Yeah, I think that's probably the group. I mean, we've been talking about all around it. We've been talking about it. It's going to be very competitive. I think that 7 through 10, the play-in tournament, is going to be fascinating. It's going to add another level of excitement to the NBA, both East and West. The East is better this year. That 7, 8, 9, 10. These teams are better. Chicago could be in that mix as well, as we talked about. They could be right there at 9 or 10.
I think we all agree that the play-in tournament's a good thing. That I remember, was it Memphis and Portland in the bubble? Was probably one of the best games I've seen for quite a while. So I think that's a good thing. G, what do you think? How's it going to play out?
Well, David's just read my mind. I've pretty much got exactly the same in terms of my notes. The same teams. I can see the Magic finishing 8th. I've got them down for. So could be a potential play-in. I don't know how many games back you need to be within. I don't know if that's been announced yet or if that's even a thing.
I think it's just 7 through 10, Garrett. I think it's just 7 through 10. So it really doesn't matter how many games back this time. It's just right. The standings, right?
Oh, fair enough. I was thinking if you're 10 games ahead of 9th, then it's not really fair, is it? But if that's the case, then yeah, you want to be aiming for 6. But yeah, it's all very interesting. Like David said, I can see the Magic being pretty good. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Paul?
I think I said last week that I can actually see the Magic, if we stay healthy, pushing for the 6th spot like last year. You and I, Mikey, last season genuinely felt that we had the ability and the opportunity to push for the 6th spot. Circumstances dictated that we ended up not doing. This season, the East, as David has said, has got hugely better, and it's good to see people migrating back to the Eastern Conference. We all know that Brooklyn are going to be better. So do we see them finishing above us? Who knows? We haven't seen what the chemistry is for various of these new pairings yet, and there's no guarantee that putting 2 stars together is actually going to result in a successful team. So I think if we stay healthy, we can push for 6th. I think that we're likely to be in the 7th or 8th spot. Atlanta, I'm not convinced still. They've got some good players. They've got great defense, but last season they weren't brilliant on defense. So if you can stay with them scoring wise, you could beat them. So yeah, I think that we're likely to see that top. I'm not going to disagree with David, to be honest with you. I think that if we can push for 6th, we are capable, and beyond that, I think that we're likely to see Indiana down around us, Washington around us, probably Atlanta as well. Yeah.
There was a stat I saw on Twitter that somebody put out, and I thought it kind of sums up last season. We only had Fultz, Fournier, Gordon, Vucevic, DJ, MCW, and Ross available at the same time for 20 games last year, and they never played in more than 4 games in a row. So when you consider,
that sounds like is this anything?
There you go. I think that is something.
It's a bell from me.
It's something, but is it anything? That's the question.
Yeah, everything's something.
But that goes to show, doesn't it? If we can stay healthy, what a difference that can make in terms of being competitive and trying to jump and trying to avoid the play-in tournament and finishing that a little bit higher up. Moving on then, we've got some question time with David. I'm going to throw the first one to G, who's got a couple for you.
Yeah,
okay,
cool.
Go
Thank
for it,
you.
mate.
Well, pronunciation, we've touched on the topic a couple of times today. So what NBA player, David, all time was the most difficult to pronounce?
Maybe it's because my memory is kind of short, Garrett, but there was a guy last year, Jeff and I laughed about it many times, for Washington, and we both struggled on the air with it. And seriously, it's one of the most difficult names. I'm not even sure I can even try to replicate what we tried to say, but I think it's Pasechnish, Andreas Pasechnish. There's just a lot of shishes in there, and we both fumbled through the whole game. And and we joked about it before the game started that we were going to struggle with this name, and then sure enough, the guy got like 30 minutes and took about 12 shots, and had rebounds and was all over the court making plays left and right. And we had to call his name a lot, so we laughed about it a lot during the course of the game. But that one stood out when I saw that we might be talking about difficult pronunciations. That's the worst one, the most difficult one for us, for me, and for Jeff, both of us, in a long time.
Cool. I remember that broadcast. That was it was quite funny.
It was pretty comical, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Paul, can you say Giannis? No, I'm not going to put you there. I'm not going to do that to you.
How close, David? How close?
Not very good.
You don't have to answer.
Not very good. But the Milwaukee, their media people tell you how to pronounce, and we asked their people, and they said it's Adetokounmpo. All the Bucks people, but I hear national broadcasts, and JT and I talk about it all the time about how why is that one so difficult to get everybody on the same page, because apparently that's the way the American pronunciation is Adetokounmpo, and so that's what we go with on the air. But I hear all kinds of different pronunciations from even the highest level of network television.
Thanks for making me feel better, David.
Yeah, people
you've always got the back
over the
map.
map.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
My second one, David, be so kind, a bit of story time with David. It's going back to the 1996 season. You've been on your fair share of road trips. One that springs to mind is that one in 96 where you got stranded in Allentown, Pennsylvania by a snowstorm and ended up in a hotel with a couple of different sets of people, shall we say. Wonder if you could just share your story with our listeners.
Well, I don't know if we have enough time for all of for the whole story, but we'll give you what we call here the Reader's Digest version. I don't know if you have anything to frame a reference if that makes any sense to you, but it's the shorter version of what happened. It was in January, and the team had played in Cleveland the night before and had a game that was on a Saturday night, and the next game was scheduled for Monday in Philadelphia. And so the team got to the airport Sunday morning. On the way in the air to Philadelphia, and there's a huge storm coming up the East Coast of the United States, and the pilots thought they could beat the storm. They thought we would land in Philly before the storm got there. Well, the storm moved faster than anybody thought, and it's this huge nor'easter up the East Coast. Airports were closing left and right, and the options, as I recall, we had were to return to Cleveland, go home to Orlando, or land in one airport that was still open on the East Coast, and that was Allentown, Pennsylvania. And the decision was made by whoever, the pilots or the coach, whoever made the call to land in Allentown. And so the plane landed in a snowstorm in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Bus to the hotel, the Allentown Hilton, with 3 feet of snow, piling up. The storm still going strong. And we got snowed in there in the Allentown Hilton. Got home Tuesday afternoon. This was Sunday morning. Didn't get home until Tuesday afternoon. Played a game that night. Got off the bus, went straight to the arena, played a game on Tuesday. But from Sunday until Tuesday morning, the team was with Shaq and Penny. This was, I think, 1996. No social media, no Twitter, no information coming out of that hotel, no video. There is no record of this. But we were in the Hilton Hotel with a punk rock group who I later found out was Marilyn Manson. In fact, I put notes down in my book, my scorebook, all through the years, the 31 years of broadcasting. And if I had it here, I could hold it up and show it to you. At the bottom of the page of the game, the next game I wrote, snowed in with a punk rock group. The name of the group was Marilyn Manson. I didn't even know who they were. I guess they were pretty new back then. They were playing at Hilton. They were playing some arena in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So that group was in the hotel. Sesame Street Live on Ice had performed the night before, and there was a wedding party in the hotel as well. And only a handful of the wedding party people could arrive because the storm was so bad. So it was kind of a sad situation with the bride and the groom and just a handful of people, a little polka band playing in the ballroom, and the couple sitting at a table with their head in their hands, kind of sad. So they were there, and that it was just bizarre. I mean, the only thing that was open was the sports bar, and so you had every meal that was Sunday and Monday and Tuesday morning in this sports bar, and all these people were in there. And Shaq was playing pool with Marilyn Manson, the people in the band, Shaq and Penny, and everybody was just in this room. It was like the bar room scene from Star Wars. It was so crazy. And I wish there was video. I wish that we had some photographs. There's nothing. It's just the memories that those of us that were there have. That's all that's left of it.
I'd have taken that. The Orlando Magic at my wedding. Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking I would have loved to have seen Marilyn Manson get on stage with the polka band.
Yeah, I don't think that happened. I don't know that they went in there, Paul, but they were in the hotel.
That would be something.
It's so strange that I've actually had to go back, because it's like, did that really happen? And it's a long time ago, and maybe 2 years ago, I went back and I Googled, Marilyn Manson concert tour 1996, and they were, sure enough, they were in Allentown. I just wanted to make sure for my own, I've been telling this story for years, and so I went back in Sesame Street. I found it all happened. They were all there, and so it's just so bizarre, but it really did happen.
Amazing.
We got a couple of questions from a couple of our UK fans. First one from Alan Kane. What's your Magic all-time starting five?
Well, there's four that, the Mount Rushmore of what we call, the top four. And it's pretty clear. I mean, there's some teams you have to think about it, but if if you're a huge Magic fan, it doesn't take very long to come up with the top 4 names. So it's Shaq and Penny and T-Mac and Dwight. Now you got a problem because Shaq and Dwight are both centers, but you're not going to bring either one of those guys off the bench, right? So you got to start Shaq. One of them's got to be your 4, one of them's got to be your 5, and it doesn't matter which one. Neither one of them are a 4, but you got to start both those guys, right? So those 2 plus Penny and T-Mac. That's a pretty nice, that one. Penny's your 1, T-Mac is a 2-3. But I think if you're starting Shaq and Dwight, then you better have some shooting. You better have some floor spacing around those guys. So the 5th starter, I would go with Dennis Scott. I gave it some thought, and Dennis was a good playmaker. He was probably the purest 3-point shooter, him and JJ Redick. But I think Dennis was even a better 3-point shooter than Redick. Just the ease with which he shot the ball. He was 6'8". He was a good playmaker too. So he would be my 5th starter. So it would be Penny, T-Mac, Dennis Scott, Shaq, and Dwight. How's that?
Awesome.
Fair enough.
It's not bad, is it?
You take it. You take it.
Would you guys plug anybody else in that 5th spot, or anybody disagree?
Myself.
You wouldn't bring Shaq or Dwight off the bench, would you?
No. I'd have Nick in there because Nick's my boy. I'd have Nick in for 3D.
Yeah, you could do that. I also thought of Hito. I thought of Nick, Hito, Dennis. Those are probably the 3 that you would consider for that spot.
Another one from Lewis Rushworth. What stands out as your favorite Magic memory in all the years you've been commentating on the Magic?
Well, I think it has to be the 1995 playoffs, the 2nd round against Chicago, game 1. It looks like we've lost game 1. Michael Jordan has come back from his hiatus playing baseball, and everybody thought the Bulls were going to beat the Magic. Nobody, even though Orlando had a better regular season, I don't think any expert really expected Jordan to come back and his Bulls to lose that series to Orlando. And they had the lead. Clock was winding down. Garen Sky, Nick Anderson makes the defensive play of all Magic history. Poking the ball away from Michael Jordan from behind. So he steals the ball from the greatest player of all time. We get a dunk at the other end, Penny to Horace Grant, win game 1. To me, that if that doesn't happen, I don't think Orlando wins that series. I think Jordan and the Bulls, just build on that. That was a young Magic team, probably unable to overcome a loss like that. So to me, that was the greatest moment, the biggest play. The first time that Orlando had a great basketball team, made it to the NBA Finals, and that was a great moment. That would be number 1.
I think we probably all agree there. Right, moving on. Magic trivia to finish off tonight's episode. The last time I did this, it didn't go very well, but I've double checked on my answers, so I don't think I'm wrong. So we're good. So what we're going to do, I'm going to ask you all for an answer at a time. We're going to go around in the same order, starting with Paul, David, and then Geraint. In the 31 years of Magic basketball, Orlando have finished with the regular season with a record better than 500 14 times. Can you name those seasons?
Okay, so 18-19.
Yep. David?
Oh, we're going to just name one at a time?
Yep.
Okay. It has to be over 500, not 41 and 41. Right?
Over 500.
Okay. Well, what did Paul say? 18, 19?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So the first 93, I'll say I'm going to go an easy one, 95. 95, 96.
G?
I'll go 94, 95.
Paul?
Oh, no. See, you always do me, don't you, with history? It's 2012. 96.
Had that one.
David, we've had it.
That's a safe bet.
I'll let you have one though. 96, 97.
No, that's what I mean in 96, 97.
There you go then.
The following year.
Yeah.
Splitting hairs now, young man.
David?
I'll just go the next year, 97, 98. That was a plus 500 team.
I've got that down as 41, 41.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was
Uh-oh.
the year we lost to the
Uh-oh.
New Jersey Nets. We
Uh-oh, I
finished
got a
ninth.
buzzer.
That was
So
Penny's.
that wasn't the short season.
That was
that was-
Penny's
that was the next
injury
year.
problems that year. I'll let you
Yeah.
have another go. I'll let you have another go, David.
Oh, okay. Let's see. There was another. Boy, I tell you, it gets a little tricky in the TMAC because there was a 41-41 and there was a 43-39, and I forget which one was which. Maybe I better go with like an 07-08.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
Hedo
Okay.
or Hedu, as Cool calls him. One most improved player.
Again, David, I transpose letters as well as struggling to say names. I then transpose letters in names.
Love it.
That's okay.
I'll
Jay.
go
God's sake.
98-99.
Correct. The first lockout shortened season.
That was the year we had Matt Harpering and Mike Doliak. Yeah.
Mhm. Paul?
2008-9.
Correct. Second finals
Okay.
run. David?
9-10.
Eastern Conference Finals. G?
I'll go 10-11.
Correct.
How
David,
many more? 2, 3, 4, 5.
you got 5 left.
5 left. Is it me? Is it up to me?
Oh, yes.
So it must be 01-02.
102. Yep. That was
That was 40.
that was my first season going to watch Orlando, 2002. There you go.
What was that? 43? 43 wins?
44 and 38. Yep.
4.
G?
I'll go 06-07.
No.
No. Rats.
I'll let you have another go.
Okay, 93-94.
Correct. Lost to the Pacers 3-0 in the first round. Paul, you've got 3 left to choose from.
Have we had 92-93?
That is an incorrect answer. That was a
No surprise there,
41-41
then.
season. Shaq's rookie season, that was. But no, it's 41-41. Have another go.
Go the year before then.
No.
Oh, David shaking his head already.
No.
Mate, you know, let G answer. I'll let
We'll
Steph
You know
we'll
what?
get-
I'm struggling.
David?
I'm going to say 02-03 because I know I think there were back-to-back years with TMAC that were 40, 44, 43.
He knows.
Is that right?
T-Mac's first scoring title that year. There you go.
Forgot that one.
42 and 40. Got 2 left, G.
Well, 03-04 isn't one because that's the season
No.
we started like 0-19. Well, 1-19, sorry. Oh my gosh, this is hard.
Do you want a hint?
Yeah, go on.
T-Mac won most improved player that year.
Oh, so that's 2000-2001.
There you go. 43 and 39. Got 1 to go. Should we go David to finish it off?
Yeah, I need a board with the years that we crossed off.
It's a bit cruel, this last one.
Yeah.
I've got them all written down, David.
So I think it might be one of the what was the 2000? Was that a 43 win? I think there was a 43 win. Was that 2000?
2000, 2001. Yeah.
Okay, that's one I was thinking of. So,
So a little bit later.
I'm thinking it was in that range. So I'll say it wasn't 03-04, 02-03. I would say 02-03.
Keep going. It's
01-02.
No,
I've already got that one.
it's sooner. It was. Shall I round it off? It was the
Yeah,
the second lockout shortened season.
Oh, that's right. 11-12,
The
10-11,
The
10-11.
Dwight, the Dwightmare season, I think that was.
Yeah,
So
we've kind of put that one out of our mind a lot.
there you go. Good stuff. There you go. Done. There's your 14.
Ooh, that was tough.
That was a hard question, Mikey.
I
It
know.
was, mate.
Good one. Good one, that one,
There
mate.
you go. There you go. Cool. That wraps us up. David, thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for giving us your time.
I appreciate it. It was fun. Thank you, guys.
Is Sally ready to push you out of the house now, by the way, and get you back on the road?
You know, I think she's out on the roof decorating for Christmas, so I better get out there and help her before it gets dark.
Great stuff. Well, hopefully we can have you again. I'll have you on again in the near future.
No doubt. No question.
Let's have a good season, and let's have something to shout about this season. Hopefully we'll see you in Orlando sooner rather than later.
I really hope so too, guys. Thanks again.